254 million tons. This is how much Americans waste each year on average. Pollution is a serious and deadly issue that, if not treated, will destroy the earth. So what is pollution, this infection that's spread across the entire planet? What is it? Well, a brief dictionary definition defines it as environmental contamination, which could be emissions from cars or factories, or as we all know, lots and lots of trash. Climate change, better known as global warming, is the Earth getting hotter because the heat from the sun is being trapped by the atmosphere. This is due to greenhouse gases being released from industry, production, as well as agriculture. When these gases are released, it creates a blanket around the Earth that does keep us warm, but too much of it can be devastating to life as we know it, causing extreme temperatures, unpredictable weather events, and eventually mass extinction. The melting of the ice caps has left animals like polar bears with less places to go every day. Throughout global warming, the ocean has been absorbing most of the heat generated by it, which does help us. However, lots of the coral can't adjust and eventually dies, which lowers the amount of the habitats for fishes, which lowers fishes' habitats as well. This affects humans just as much as animals too. Air pollution can cause diseases such as heart disease, lung cancer, and other respiratory infections. And that's just the beginning of it. Let's see. Air pollution, like smog, accounts for over 4.2 million deaths each year because people caught those diseases from breathing the air they need to live. Here I'll show some examples of what pollution is doing to the world. First, we have the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is a giant island of trash made up when people littered and eventually the trash made its way to the ocean. Lots of the trash were caught in similar currents and ended up in the same spot. This created the trash island known as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which grows bigger every day. Next, we have the infamous smog. Smog is made up of pollutants in the air and is a very strong threat, both combined with overall air pollution, but it's also a deadly threat on its own. In 1952, around 12,000 people died in the Great Smog of London, and over 50 years later, control on air pollution hasn't gotten much better. You know what pollution is, the effects, and even some examples, and now it's time to stop it, and here are some ways. First, don't use extra energy, and while saying just lowering the lights or turning them off may sound cliche and basic, a study in the UK suggests around 4.4 billion pounds were wasted one year just for leaving the lights on. This is equivalent to around $6,218,520,000 in American currency. Next, you could buy carbon offsets from companies, and carbon offsets are kind of like donations that reduce the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. You would measure out how much carbon you used, and you could give that much money to the project. And for example, being on an economy flight round trip from New York to LA would produce 1.5 billion tons of CO2. It would cost $43 to get rid of that much CO2 from the atmosphere, which you can then give to those projects or companies, and they would take that much CO2 out of the atmosphere as if you were never on the flight to begin with. Now knowing this, decide for yourself what you will do to help. I'd like to end the presentation with a quote from Terry Swearingen that says, "We are living on this world as if we have another one to go to."